commercial real estate data. You're all on mute, so please use the Q&A portion of GoToWebinar to ask any questions, and I'll address them anonymously, throughout the webinar, and we can address them at the end of the call as well. My name is Camille Music, and I'll be addressing those questions so you'll know who's firing back at you. So today, instead of just reviewing one solution, we're going to review a common scenario that plays out in commercial real estate, a few of them actually, and see how to make the most out of that intelligence that comes from them, as well as get some new intel. I'm going to hand the call off to Wes Snow, and for those of you on Twitter, his handle is Wes_Snow, so please follow him. As he is fairly active. Take it away, Wes.
Great. Thanks, Camille, and I appreciate everybody in your attendance here. As usual, there are some that may be on the phone that have seen and attended some of our past webinars, but there are some that are new, and so I'm going to spend just a moment here introducing Ascendix, and we're going to get into this day in the life that Camille spoke to. So with that said, Ascendix has been in business, hard to believe, almost 20 years here. The first 10 or so were in more of a traditional CRM capacity where we were just a professional services consultancy, and 10 years ago we decided to specialize and focus in on a particular set of problems for a particular type of organization, and in this case it happens to be commercial real estate. And what began as just some folks who had some subject matter expertise in commercial real estate evolved slowly into a product offering that now is based on top of two platforms, the industry leaders effectively in CRM, one of which is Dynamics CRM and the other is Salesforce. So we've been doing this for 10 years and have evolved the products and are really proud about what we're going to be showing today and the various options that are available to the marketplace underneath the AscendixRE umbrella. Based in Dallas, about 70 employees, and as you can imagine, we've got deep partnerships with both Microsoft and Salesforce as a result of having chosen both of those as our platform players. A quick snapshot so you can get an appreciation for who we deal with and who we work with from a company perspective. All shapes and sizes, from multiple thousand user implementations to small boutique brokerages across the United States and internationally. They also range in terms of business lines, from publicly traded REITs to traditional brokerage houses that deal with tenant representation, landlord rep, as well as investment sales, property ownership and management organizations as well. So you can appreciate the wide variety of use cases that we have to accommodate for under one roof, and so we've endeavored to do that with the AscendixRE products. This is a quick snapshot of our product portfolio. At the center you see the Dynamics CRM and Salesforce logos. They are the epicenter for all that we do. They are the housing mechanism for the data that is your data, commercial real estate data and beyond. And you'll see around the perimeter are a variety of ways in which to consume that data. Notice on the very outside there is this consumption creation continuum, and they're not just arbitrarily placed there, but intentionally placed in that there are different roles in commercial real estate organizations. There are those that tend to create data, research departments, administrators, assistants, perhaps even legal, and there are those that consume data that has been input into the system, brokers, management, and so forth. And so not all of these interfaces are designed alike. They are intentional in terms of accommodating the tendencies of usage for those individual users in the commercial real estate community. Having said that, we're going to try to accommodate viewing the data that exists inside of AscendixRE through each of these particular conduits. Outlook, being able to track emails and calendar items. Certainly on the desktop, many of you are using Internet Explorer or Chrome or Safari and want to show you how you can consume this information through those tools. And then there are mobile devices, some of which are out-of-the-box solutions, and there's the AscendixRE mobility solutions that are available specifically for commercial real estate use cases. The Smart Client, something that we may touch on, and then Composer is our publication tool that allows you to take this rich property and availability and listing information and generate professional looking brochures and microsites for that data. So what are we doing? Well, essentially you could look to us as an architectural firm who has built a very specific house for commercial real estate organizations. That house is an application called AscendixRE. And until recently, we really depended on the client to submit and provide all of the data that would be moved into this house. And you'll hear me from time to time in past webinars and such refer to this metaphorically as we built the house and your data is the furniture. And the combination of the house that we've constructed very specifically for commercial real estate coupled with the data that you have that is commercial real estate data really brings a nice 1-2 punch and provides the largest amount of value for the AscendixRE product. And so when we first begin the journey, there are a patchwork quilt of Excel spreadsheets or other systems that really aren't talking to each other. We're housing all of those and porting those over into AscendixRE. And those range from companies, contacts, to spreadsheets that contain property information, lease information, availability. All that information is organized and ported over. At the same time, now with our recent partnership with Inside View, we're taking that data and we're enriching it so that you have a much larger and accurate set of data than you might otherwise have had. And once all of that information is brought over through the existing data, scrubbed and cleansed and enriched by the Inside View partnership, we now have a really unique opportunity to do many things and leverage this data in a way that might not have been available in the past because of the islands of information phenomenon. You know, whether it be tracking deals, no longer in an Excel spreadsheet, but centralized, tracking all of your property information in one location and all that entails, images, availabilities, leases and listings, to certainly the company and contact data. So you see that list there. All of those are concepts and data elements that we're tracking inside of the AscendixRE solution that are now centralized and provided in one location. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into a day in the life here. Now, as you saw on the slide prior, we have our application resident on 2 platforms, that being Salesforce and Dynamics. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time in both so as to give you a flavor for what the AscendixRE product looks like on top of those platforms. And so here we go, beginning the day in the life. So for better or worse, I'm going to just kind of move in as a tenant representation broker. However, there could be just as easily an applicable example that we render out for agency leasing or landlord rep and or investment sales. So I don't want those of you who are attending today to check out mentally because I've chosen tenant representation as the persona that I'm going to move into today. And we certainly have a Q&A session at the back end where we can dive into this in more detail with other features and functionality that I might not cover today. So in that tenant rep mentality, we're looking up an account. And at this point, I've already got Ascendix Technologies brought up, but if I wanted to go in and perform that same search again, I simply go to the search facility at the top of the screen and type in enough information to get unique result sets here. Clicking through to the Ascendix Technologies record, I now have that company record available to me, and I can see information about this particular prospective tenant that I'm working. I've got a number of contacts that I'm dealing with. I've got some preferential information regarding their leases. We've got some activities that are scheduled in the future as well as in the past. And so in this particular account overview, I'm doing a real quick review of the contacts that I have in the database and realize that I could stand to broaden the relationship that I have with Inside View, with Ascendix. And so as I scroll down, you'll notice through the mashup that we have with the Inside View product, I'm now able to leverage this CRM intelligence, which is the Inside View database, and have it contextually inside of my CRM experience. And so because I'm on the Ascendix Technologies record, it recognizes that and pulls that Ascendix Technologies corporate information to the forefront, noticing that I can look at things at a corporate level, both at an overview capacity as well as a company information section, but I can also drill down into the people that work at Ascendix. And in this particular case, I recognize that there is a gentleman by the name of Jeff Donato who I do not yet have in my database, and I'm not aware of him. And certainly being that we're wanting to get in touch with all the VP levels and up, we want to establish a relationship with Jeff. And so by highlighting that particular record in this mashup, you can see the details of Jeff Donato here on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, if you're like most, data entry is not necessarily a fun job. It's a necessary evil to store information, and Inside View gets that. And what we have here is a synchronization concept that allows us to take that data that's inside of this CRM intelligence database Inside View and quickly port that over to our CRM database. And so I'm going to bring this window to the forefront, and you'll notice that by having clicked that button, it pops up the screen saying, Jeff Donato, VP of Professional Services. I've bounced that up against your Salesforce database, and I do not see an existing record for Jeff Donato. Would you like to create a new lead and or a contact? So I'm going to select Create New Contact and click Continue. And at that point, it's going to bring up a window that allows me to view all the data that's about to be ported into my CRM system and make some decisions on whether or not I want to port all or some of that information. We'll go ahead and check all and leave that as the default. Click Create Contact. And once I've done that, I can close this window, and now I've quickly created a new contact record inside of my Salesforce database. And to see how that looks, I can just simply go to the search facility and type in Jeff Donato, and sure enough, there's Jeff's record. We click on that, and although I saw initially the Inside View window at the corporate level, I can now see the same thing at the individual contact level with Jeff Donato's information sitting here. And if by chance Jeff is in the news and or there's social activity around Jeff's handles, whether that be LinkedIn, Google+, or even Facebook, we might see some of that activity over here in this particular section of the Inside View tool. So it gives you a flavor for how we're leveraging this intelligent database for Inside View and making our commercial real estate epicenter, that being the AscendixRE tool, even better. So in this day in the life, we've been managing the Ascendix relationship, and we want to check our inbox for any emails that might have come in while we were working through our CRM system. And so I'm going to toggle over to Outlook and take a look at my inbox. Now again, this is not my production inbox, but it gives you, it's a demonstration inbox and gives you a flavor for how the integration works between Outlook and Salesforce.com. And so in this particular example, I'm logged in and I happen to see that I've received an email from Camille Music, who happens to be with Ascendix Technologies. And as someone who is a good steward of data, I want to bring that information that comes into my inbox and put it into the centralized CRM system so that others that are in the organization can benefit from that correspondence tracking. And with the Salesforce side panel, I'm able to do that. And so all I've simply done is highlighted the email. I can see in this preview panel all the details about that email, and you can see that she's indicated some interest in Preston Park with the upcoming move that Ascendix is considering. And we have the side panel that automatically has recognized that the sender of that email, Camille Music, is a contact record inside of Salesforce. And so it suggests, by bringing Camille's contact record into the side panel, that we might want to record that email as a historical item. And so by hovering over this icon, I can turn on or off the ability to record that email against Camille's record. I've already gone and done that in this particular example. If, however, I want to, in addition to create a historical record for Camille, look up and associate that email with a, let's say, property record, in this case Preston Park Financial Center, I can do that by simply typing in Preston Park in the search facility, and it will go out and it will look for all records in CRM that actually have that particular value. Here we see Preston Park Financial Center, and we can see that I've automatically I've also flagged this email to be connected to that record as well. And so in this green panel at the top, we can see that I've connected it to 2 records inside of Salesforce, thus giving anybody who has access and rights to those records inside of Salesforce to be aware of the fact that I, Wes Snow, have talked with Camille Music about her interest in moving from the current office situation to perhaps Preston Park Financial Center. And as you can appreciate, if in fact you're in the agency leasing side of the equation and you're tracking correspondence related to a property, that really bodes well for reporting and activity management back up to the landlord or owner of that particular property. And it all happens within the context of Outlook, which we're all very, very familiar with. So that's the Outlook integration in this day in the life example. So now I'm going to move on throughout the day here and I've recognized that I've become quite knowledgeable in this industry of computer software, having worked with Ascendix Technologies and had dialogue with how their business works and so forth. And I feel that I want to leverage that particular insight in that industry and try to replicate it again and again and again. And so I've now opened up the Dynamics version of AscendixRE for you to look at. Ascendix Technologies is here, and Inside View is also a panel inside of that particular form. And in order to go in there and focus on a particular vertical, I'm going to leverage this concept called View Watch Lists. And so by clicking on the Watch List button within the Inside View tool, I can go out there and create a targeted list of companies to go out and manage and make sure that I've got oversight on. The idea behind watch list is to take companies that you want to target on and then set business triggers associated with them so that if in the news you hear anything about hiring, expansion plans, acquisitions, partnerships, that those business events that actually act as triggers for me to call into those companies are coming to me in a very proactive fashion. And so with that as the context in the end game, let's see how that might be done. And so here I'm going to create a new watch list. We're going to call this software companies. And I'm going to hit save. And now that I've titled this watch list, I'm going to go in and add companies to that watch list. And so I've got a couple that I have in mind here. There's a company called New Relic, and by tabbing I get into a new line and I can actually add another company, and let's just go ahead and add a couple more, and I'll do one last one and we'll go ahead and hit search. And now what it's doing is it's going out there to the Inside View database and looking for matches against those company names to see if they're in the database. And in this particular case we see that there was a match for New Relic, for Tableau, as well as App Dynamics and Equian. And after having found those matches, I can at this point just simply click on Add to Watch List. Now all I've done at this point is simply just put a listener down on the ground to say if anything happens to these companies, I'd like to know about them, especially when it comes to some of these business triggers that we can look at. We call them agents inside of Inside View. And so if we click on these agents in use, you can see that while this listener's got its ear to the ground for those companies that we've been very intentional and deliberate about defining, it's going to look for leadership changes, litigation, compliance, and these are just some of the out-of-the-box agents, and you can go in there and add others as well. And so you've got a virtual research team working on your behalf against a very targeted set of accounts that are ultimately going to come into your inbox. And some of you may have seen it while I popped over into the Outlook client here a moment ago. I'd actually gone in and created a couple of watch lists prior to and allowed for these agents to go out there and run reports and aggregate those into inbox emails for me that I decided I'm going to have delivered to me on a daily basis. And you could have any number of watch lists, and they could be verticalized, they could be subsetted however you wish. And so what we see here are just a couple of examples of some inbound emails that represent notifications on acquisitions, research and development, and things of that nature. And again, it ranges anywhere from commercial real estate companies that I've put in here, as well as computer software companies like Jive Software, who's dealing with leadership changes, partnerships, and so forth. And we not only resell this, by the way, but we use this internally, and I can tell you that it's really helped us get in front of some folks in that moment of need for them, and helped us to be there first instead of sitting there waiting after they've talked to somebody that we might be competing with. So very interesting tool, and certainly as it relates to prospecting and going out there and building out new business lines, this is a really, really powerful solution. So after having created that watch list and having seen some inbound emails, we noted that Tableau is in the news quite a bit, and so we would like to go into our CRM system and actually start tracking that particular company in more detailed fashion. And so what I'm going to do is use this dynamic CRM interface to go in and create a new record, a new company record for Tableau, and by clicking the Quick Create button, I can go in there and type in Tableau. And again, going back to that data entry conundrum that we have, I mean, you've got to have data for it to benefit you, but we don't, as end users, really want to go in and spend a lot of time with a lot of data entry. And this is something that really helps in that regard. And so all I've done is simply typed in Tableau and clicked on Save, at which point it starts to write that record to the database. It asks me if I want to view the record. I'll go ahead and say yes, let's go ahead and view it. And then with that small piece of information and having the inside view adapter being brought in, we can go in there and take a look at the details. Well, we have a new form that just popped up here. Bear with me. And with that, we can see the Tableau software insert being brought into the forefront of this form. And so I've entered in Tableau. That was all I entered in. Now I've got access to all this really rich information on the screen, at which point I can use the synchronization button to go in there and give me the opportunity to bring that data into the CRM system. All I need to do is simply click on Update Account, and it brings that information into Dynamics. I'll go ahead and close the window. And with a quick refresh of the screen, well, you've got Murphy's Law working pretty hard on me here. Let's go ahead and close that out and go back to Tableau record and see what we've got. So the Tableau Software Incorporated now is the name of the company. And we've got the main phone, the fax, and the website. All that information I didn't have to enter in by hand. And so that's a wonderful way to, let me get back over here to this other form here. We see the description, we've got a ticker symbol, we've got the SIC code and the ownership, all information now available to us, and all we had to do is type in the word Tableau. And that's just a wonderful way to get adoption and to speed up the process of building out your database, and doing so with information that candidly you probably wouldn't have taken the time to enter in to begin with. Traditionally, we see individuals at the corporate level putting in company names, perhaps the website, maybe a phone number, and most of the information is being tracked at a contact level. And so the more the better in terms of being able to mine and search and sort on that data. So in this day in the life example, we're going to move forward. As you can appreciate, we might, after having had some initial conversations to build rapport and some trust building conversations, we finally earn the right to actually pursue their business. And we might have gone in and tracked a number of phone calls along the way, talked about a new lease, and those types of daily correspondence are now all visible. But ultimately, we're going to get into this process of wanting to monetize that relationship. And so with that said, we're going to click on this preferences piece here. During our conversations, as we've built this rapport and we started to learn more about their needs, they started sharing with us some details about what it is that they want in their new lease space. And so we're going to, instead of just putting this into some arbitrary note field, we're going to get structured about the way in which we track this information. And so we're going to name this preference lease preference, and using this drop down here, I'm going to select the lease. You can see there are remnants where we can track things from more of an investment sales perspective. And here we're going to go in there and put an area square footage minimum of 15,000 square feet, and we'll go up to 22,000 square feet. Rent range, we'll just put 25 to 30. And it's an office building, and we want to have this be at least a Class A building. And so with that preference now stored, we can hit Save. Now, it's great that we've got this, but we want to be able to do something with that data. Now, again, we haven't really talked about it much, but we have spoken to it briefly. We're tracking much more than just company and contact information inside of AscendixRE. Envision having a rich set of property data that's now being recorded and stored inside of the system, along with availabilities that are associated with those properties. If in fact we have that information, we can leverage these preferences and bounce these requirements against an inventory of availabilities that we have in the system. And so quickly it goes out there in a workflow and it matches those preferences against those availabilities and gives us a list here. Imagine the power you have at your disposal if you're on the phone with somebody from Tableau software who's just giving you those preferences, you've entered them into the system, and now you've got an interesting conversation that you can have regarding any number of these availabilities that you have in the database up on the screen. So it's a very, very powerful solution and something that that we've baked into both the dynamic solution as well as the Salesforce offering. So as we evolve the relationship, we start to track the deal parameters and deal points. Instead of just putting that in the notes field as well, we've got this concept of a deal record. And so we're going to go in and create a new deal for Tableau, and we have the opportunity to name that deal. So we'll call this the Tableau lease deal, and it's a tenant rep deal. We're early on here. It's a long list of properties that we're discussing. We're going to go ahead and put in some projected gross deal value. We've got a gross fee percentage that we've already negotiated, and we're early on, so we're going to put a 20% close probability on that, and they've got a move-in date that is somewhere in March, and so we want to kind of get this thing nailed down tail end of February. It's already pre-populated the client, that being Tableau software, and I, being the lead broker, have been populated in, and at that point I don't need to have any more information than that to go ahead and initiate this first deal record. And so if we drill into that, we can get a flavor for the deal information that we've tracked so far and know that we could certainly get as deep or as shallow in tracking that information as we'd like. Now, as a commercial real estate broker, I'm very interested in my pocketbook, and so I want to be able to manage for my own sanity and benefit my commissionable events. And so there's a commission tied to this deal, and so inside of the product we have the ability to track those commissions that are going to be generated based off of this transaction. So I click on the Add New Commission facility, and it allows me to go in there and add one or many brokers, co-brokers, inside brokers, even expenses that are related to this deal. So we'll go simple on this one and say we've got an inside broker entry here, and it's going to be me. I've got to type my name in and get my record, go ahead and get associated with this. 50% payout. I'm going to share that with another broker that I'm co-brokering this with, and having been more of a senior broker here for some time, I'm going to go ahead and say that the house percentage is 20%, I get the rest, and we'll go ahead and hit save and close. Now, I didn't have to put anything more than the amount percentage and the house percentage. The gross deal value and the gross fee are going to be fed into that, and formulaically we actually have those calculations being done for us. So as a result of that commission, I have 175 coming to me. We're going to go ahead and add another broker here, another inside broker, and we'll go ahead and put Chris Peterson, who's been working hard with me, but is, whoops, got to get full name right. And go ahead and split that 50-50, but being more of the junior and our seniority, we'll go ahead and put that at a 50-50 and hit save. And we now have two commissionable brokers on the deal, and that allows us to track that to its fruition. So interesting to see that deal on a one-off basis, but in an aggregate fashion, it might be interesting to see how we're doing on an all-up basis, all of our deals, and how are we working them. And so we have an opportunity to do that with either dashboards and or reports. And so we're going to go over to this dashboards facility and take a look at this classic sales funnel. And there are a number of ways that you can present your pipeline data and so forth. This just happens to be a pretty classic one. And this is interesting in that it starts off at more of a high level, giving you the ability to slice and dice and grade this out. This happens to be by deal type. However, if I click this details icon, it allows me to go in there and see this information in more of a side-by-side comparison. So now I see the graphic here, but I see all of the deals that I've got in my pipeline presently, and we'll see that added to that in real time was this new Tableau lease deal that's got valued at $437,000. So again, just showing you how in the world in which you might live today, where you're using Excel spreadsheets and having a tough time really trying to get the data to work for you, now having committed all of this workflow into one centralized system, I'm now having a system work for me. So in this example, we've been at the desk, and it's now time to go out on a couple of tours, and so we're out in the field. And what do we do with our computing today? Well, we don't normally unplug our laptop and take it with us. We've got these new power devices that are iPads and iPhones and so forth. And so I want to give you a bit of visibility on how we see the world with inside the AscendixRE solution on the road. And so I'm going to see if I can share with you my iPad, and hopefully you can see that now. So imagine we're in the field and we've got some folks from Tableau calling us up on our mobile phone, and they're asking about a new property that they have seen out in their driving around and would like to at least get a bit more detail about it. What are the availabilities in it and so forth. And so using the AscendixRE mobile solution for the iPad, we're able to do that. So here we have a list of properties that happens to be already on the Preston Park Financial Center property, but I'd like to show you some of the searching capabilities that are available in this commercial real estate specific iPad app. So if I wanted to go in and take a look at all properties that are in the city of Dallas that are office, I could simply type in a natural language fashion Dallas office, and the system's smart enough to go out there and filter down all the properties in the database to just those that are in the city of Dallas that are of type equal to office. If I clear that out, we'll also notice that there is a mapping facility that allows me to go in there and do searches based on a map selection that I might make. So I'm going to go ahead and hover this over around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and kind of pinching out here, we can go in there and use the map to govern our result set. So by putting my finger on the glass, we'll see a quick flash. I can take a complex shape drawing that I've done with my finger, and it immediately shades the area that was inside that particular shape and give me a result set based on that. So that's a fairly compelling searching facility. But there's also something else that we've drawn that we've made available here as well as I reset these filters, and that is what we call the faceted filters capability. So imagine needing to look up properties that are of type equal to office. Instead of hitting drop downs and so forth, I can just simply take my finger and swipe from left to right and expose this set of faceted filters, at which point I can select, say, office properties and click save, and immediately it starts to re-render the list to relegate it to just those properties that are of type office. Now you might not have seen it, but there's a list of property owners here that are governed by those that own office properties. If there was a property owner out there that owned exclusively retail, they wouldn't be showing in this particular list because there's a predecessor filter that's already been applied that governs the pick list here. So here we have Griffin Partners, which we know to be the owner of Preston Park Financial Center, and so we're going to select that, and it gives us that results set of those three properties that we have for Griffin in the database. And so we go to the Preston Park Financial Center property, and we see a number of things, including any deals that we're working with it, any of the availabilities that are in that particular property are available to us, and we even have the ability to generate stacking plans, and that we have both the availabilities and the lease information in the database for that property, and so we can actually see that on the screen here. Now the way that we designed this was that it's certainly beneficial to be consumed by the end user, but the way we've put care and attention to detail in the graphical rendering here is so that you can flip it around and actually share it with interested parties like prospective tenants and or investors. So the stacking plan is interesting. So in this particular case, they've called us, we're out in the field, and we'd like to send them a little bit more information about this particular property. And so with this actions menu, you'll see that there are a number of actions that we can take on the property, one of which is to create a brochure. And if I click on the Create Brochure, immediately it feeds this property, Preston Park Financial Center, into that particular container. And I've had a little bit of problem with that in the past. I didn't know if that was going to happen again. We'll launch it back and start back over here. Sorry about that. Murphy's Law once again. So I'm going to load the iPad solution, and we'll go back to the Preston Park, and I'll show you this whole process of creating a brochure on the iPad as opposed to having to go back to the office to do so. And so I'm going to bring the property back up, Preston Park Financial Center, and I've got my actions button. Look at Create Brochure once again, click on Next, and now it will bring this Create Brochure wizard up for me, at which point I have the ability to select any number of templates that I could push that data into. I'll select this urban gray theme and click on the create brochure. And now it's actually acting as a report writer for us. It's taking all the data at the property level as well as the availabilities level, and it's feeding it into this template and allowing us to view that on screen. And we could view it on screen, or we could actually choose to email that to the person who's asked for it, again, all the while being out in the field. And so we'll let this thing render out, and you'll notice there on the left-hand side it's denoting what property is and what availabilities are being fed into it. And once that finishes out, we'll have an email option in the upper right-hand corner that will allow us to actually fire this off. And so now we see the email button. We click on that, and it leverages the onboard emailing tool that you have. At that point, we're not attaching the file, but simply putting a URL out there that you can click through and download that particular brochure. So that's one example of how you're benefiting from all this really rich information that's been centrally stored but made available to follow you wherever you might be in that particular moment when someone calls and asks for your help. So with that said, I'm going to end the day in the life here, and we're going to go back to the actual PowerPoint and turn it over to Camille for a finish out in terms of Q&A. So Camille, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, and just want to make sure you can hear me.
Can hear you loud and clearly.
All right. We have a few questions already in the hopper in the Q&A, but if, as a reminder, if you have a question, now would be the time to go ahead and ask away. It'll be anonymous, and we'll answer those right now. One was a clarifier, Wes. They wanted to confirm that we have AscendixRE on MSCRM and Salesforce. Is that true?
Yeah.
What's the difference? Kind of
so I bounced in and out of both platforms a little bit, and I just want to make sure we're all very, very clear here that yes, AscendixRE is available today on both the Dynamics CRM and Salesforce platforms. If you've got an interest and you're not quite exactly sure which technology is best suited for you, that's where we can come in and in a really unbiased fashion look at what your specific needs are and align those needs and interests with the appropriate technology.
Okay, next question is, can you import property data from CoStar?
The answer is technically yes, and I mean when I say technically, there's importing tools that allow for the importation of any number of record types, and certainly one of those is property information, company and contact information, as you can expect. The question is more of a legal one. Are you within the rights of your subscription agreement able to do that? And that varies from one subscription holder to the next. So there's no technical reason why you can't import the data. Okay,
and let's see, another one is the stacking plan functionality. Is it in the desktop version as well?
Yeah, we kind of moved along quickly here in the day in life, and you have to make some choices on what you're going to show and not show. So let's just take a quick look at what it renders out like on the desktop. So Preston Park, I'll type that in, and we've got a property record here, and one of the navigations underneath the property is the stacking plan. So same data, same rendering engine, just in a larger format here on a desktop.
Wes, the screen is not showing. At least it's not for me. I can go back into screen share mode.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
So sorry about that. So I'm sitting inside of the Dynamics interface, and we're looking at the stacking plan on the desktop.
Great. Okay, another is, what type of map-based functionality do you have in the tools, like for searching?
Certainly. So I think I showed a little bit of that on the iPad, but there are some very powerful tools that are available on the desktop as well. I'm going to show you this. We call it the Quick Search Facility. And so here we'll take a fictitious example where we want to take a look at, say, properties that are in a particular geography. you'll notice that we've embedded a map in a side-by-side with the searching facilities that allow us to use that not only for pushpin purposes, but also to drive result sets. So, excuse me. So we're going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to grab some of these selection tools. This happens to be more of a radius search, effectively, and I take Dallas as the epicenter of the search, and I just drag my mouse out so I can select radius of area from the downtown area. And then from there I can grab some other drop-down fields, like for instance property type, and say, well, we only want those that are equal to office, and click on search. And it then at that point provides us the spreadsheet view or grid view of results that we can go in there and play around with, take a look at. And as we select those properties, we have the ability to take action on them, whether it be adding them to a group or a list, adding them to a deal, and perhaps even creating a new brochure or microsite from this. And so we can also toggle that back to where we can see the map and the results set at the same time. So a number of ways in which we're using mapping, not just for plotting, but also using it as a powerful search facility as well. This happens to be Google Maps that we're using.
Okay. And just a reminder, if you have a question, go ahead and ask it real quickly here in the panel. The last one I have in the hopper is, let's see how to best word this. So even though they're most likely to go with an online application, is there the ability to house it on-premise as well?
Yeah. So, back when we started, you have to remember we've been in this for about 20 years. There really weren't a whole lot of online solutions. It was all on-premise. So having that be kind of in our DNA from the beginning, we still have solutions that can be deployed on-premise, and that's the beauty of having multiple platforms. We've mentioned Dynamics and Salesforce. Salesforce came out, back in '99, something along those lines, and they started from the get-go being an online only. Almost their tagline was no software. So there really is no on-premise offering there. Dynamics has an on-premise offering, although they have an online. They also have an on-premise as well. So allows us to look at the circumstances that exist in a particular firm, and if it merits, there is still a number of firms that find that having their data on their servers in their facilities on premise makes the most sense for them. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's just it's about options, and so we have that.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have gone through all the questions. So I believe we can wrap it up. Unless, but if you have any additional ones, you know where to find us. Please reach out. We'll also be sending this webinar to you post-event to review and share. And I believe that's all.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for your attendance. Again, as Camille's mentioned, if you've got questions or want some deeper dives on any of the things you've seen today, please let us know. We won't hesitate to get back with you. Thanks much.
Great. Thanks, Les.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.